When people think about the Norse afterlife, I'm guessing 99% just go straight to Valhalla. Go figure, it's the most important place, I'm guessing. We have a lot of information about that. But what about the beach of corpses? What about the kingdom of the drowned? What about the boat constructed with the fingernails of the deceased? And where did all the normal people who died of old age and sickness go? Well, that's what we're getting into today. Hi and welcome to Morbid History, where we discuss historic true crime, folklore, mythology, and generally jauntily macabre things from our dark past. Today we're going to delve into the different places where you could go after life cancellation during Norse pagan times. As my professor told me when I studied history, trying to look so far back with so little actual written records is like trying to peer into a keyhole and make sense of whatever you can gather from that perspective. But here we go. I'm going to go through the most well-known deathly kingdoms, the afterlife of Norse mythology, and also some of the lesser known. So let's get into it. So let's start with the one that we all know and love, Valhalla, Odin's little place for fallen warriors. The ones who died in battle a noble and heroic death. Valhalla roughly translates into the Hall of the Fallen or the Hall of the Slain. It was a grand and spectacular building that was lit up by swords and shields and helmets, probably from the big old fight that brought all these men here. The hall or the building was so large that it had 540 doors. What did all these people do then during their wait for Ragnarok? Well, they would party all night, where they would drink mead out of the udders of a goat, straight out of it. Fantastic. And then during the days they would fight each other until death, just to reanimate again and start the whole thing over. Partying, warring, partying, warring. You could easily see why some people would not call this their version of heaven. The meaning, of course, was that these fallen warriors would then help Odin once Ragnarok was upon them. Still, I would not choose to go there. But not all of the fallen soldiers, warriors, would come to Valhalla. It was Valkyriernas work to go there and pick up the fallen victims. And it was actually Freya who got to choose half of them to take to her afterlife death kingdom called Folkvang, which translates into warrior's field. She also had a great grand hall where they could party all night, and a big old meadow where they fought each other all day. So pretty much the same as Valhalla in that regard. Of course, since there's so little documentation of these beliefs, some say that Freya actually took and chose the warriors to go to Valhalla and not to her place. But in some sources, they state that Odin took half while Freya chose half to Folkvang. So, each to their own, I suppose. Some stories even say that Freya did not only take the warriors that had died in noble causes out there in the fighting fields, she would also accept women who had died a noble cancellation, like sewer slide for their honor, or as one story told, a daughter who starved herself because she couldn't live without her father. And again, there's not too much in the form of written records or like contemporary sources about Freya being a death goddess. But then again, it seemed like all gods and goddesses were death gods in some way or another. Even Frey has been mentioned as taking some ancestors into his hall, but this hall of his has never been named anywhere, so it's not like placed within the canon, if you want to say it like that. Then we will move on to two other kind of well-known ones. We have Hel or Helheim and Nifelheim.
And now, a short commercial break.
Well, hi there. My name is Perkele Satana von Vittu. Self-appointed master in bloody history. Did you know that only around 15% of you are subscribed? I think you should do it. I read all these papers for hours. And I do it for you. So please, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell. It'll be fun. No kippis.
Thank you, and good night.
I'm going to talk about them as two separate places, even though some mix them together and it's kinda confusing. But Hel was ruled by the goddess of death Hel, and it was also called Helheim. This was a very dark and dreary place, and she took the people who had dearly departed by old age, sickness, or just not anything notable. Even gods could come down to Hel. There's a story when Balder was yeeted with his little mistletoe. Apparently that wasn't notable enough. He was taken in by Hel into Hel's grand house, and she welcomed Balder with a giant feast and a good old time. The other normal humans who ended up there, they seemed to just live the kind of life they did on Earth, just more dreary, grey, and sad. Like, yeah. Hel also had a very big, tall wall around it. It was very hard to get in there. Yeah. So, Hel, her name meaning the fördolda or the hidden. How did she become the goddess of Hel and the afterlife? Well, Odin pushed her down there and she became quite monstrous to look at. She had been a very beautiful girl, but when she hit the ground of what was then Nifelheim, half of her became a corpse and half of her became a rotten skeleton. And then Odin gave her the position as the goddess of the afterlife, death, and Helheim, where Hel then resided. That's a long story, and I'll take that up in a different video where I'll also be talking about Loki's other children, because yes, Hel was one of Loki's children. Then we have Nifelheim, and it was known as the Kingdom of Ice. It was very cold, terrible, no thank you. And this was the place where the worst sinners were sent. And they were tasked with building a big ship called Nagelfar. Nagel means fingernail in Swedish, and as you could guess, the ship is made out of the fingernails of all the dearly departed people there. So it actually became a custom to always cut the fingernails before burying someone. Yeah, you didn't really want to push the finishing of this particular ship more than you had to, because that just meant that the Ragnarok was getting closer. And yeah, Nagelfar was standing waiting at a place called Corpse Lake by a very large cold ocean called Omsvarte. And there it was, standing, waiting, getting built for Ragnarok. Then we have some disputable ones that I'll just take in short. We have Trudvang, which was Thor's little place. And he actually got all the thralls and slaves and poor people who didn't own land and things like that. And Odin actually made fun of him for that in one of the stories. And that's basically also the only place where we have records of Trudvang being a kingdom of death. Then we have the goddess Gefjon, and that means den givande, which translates to the giving. She was the goddess of plowing. She was accused by Loki to be promiscuous. She was also a goddess of fertility, but at the same time she was written out to be a jungfru, which could translate into virgin. Either way, she had her own place called Gefjon's Hall, and this is where she would take in unmarried women, honorable women. Some say virgins, but some say that wasn't exclusively the point. Either way, she took in the ladies, and we can all thank her for that. Some representation. And last of the proper death kingdoms, we have Ran's Hall. Ran was the personification of the wild ocean, while her husband Egir was the personification of the calm, gentle sea. They had a few daughters, and they were known as the wild waves. Yes. Either way, Ran had Ran's Hall at the bottom of the ocean. It glistened up from immense amounts of gold. Because the thing was that if you drowned, you would hope to get into Ran's Hall. Because there you got to party. Yeah, you had yourself a little Viking party. And that is fun. To get in though, in some cases at least, you had to have something made of gold to give as an offering before you could be let in. There's stories of captains giving his crew gold rings in case of that happening. Drowning was also called going to bed with Ran. So she was seen a bit of an erotic creature. And last, I thought I'd take up one of the places that everyone could go to after Ragnarök, Gimle. Gimle was described as a large house with a gilded ceiling and just the fairest of them all. And anyone who had been righteous and honorable could go there and live forever after Ragnarök. In a text called Völvans spårdom, dated sometime before 900 AD, it's written as thus. En sal ser hon fagrare än solen stånda, täckt med guld på Gimle. Där skola hövdingtrogna härskaror bo, i allan tid äga högnad. So yeah, life wasn't entirely over after Ragnarök. Extra information. It seemed as though the veil between being quite demised and quite alive was very thin for these people. While researching this, I had an essay from Stockholm University. There was this story about a king who perished, and his dying wish was to be buried next to the old king who was his friend, so that they could converse together. There was also plenty of stories of people hearing ruckus and singing and general partying down in the grave mounds. With all those choices and all that partying, even at Valhalla or whatever, or in the grave mound, cancellation of life subscription didn't seem too bad for these pagan Norse believers. Thank you everyone for watching, and please leave a comment down below what you thought. Are you more or less interested in any of these gods, goddesses? Let me know, I might make a video on them. Either way, thank you so much for being here, and a giant thanks to my lovely Patreons. You mean the hecking world to me. I can't describe it. And I'm actually gonna start doing like twice a month or more, hopefully, Patreon exclusive videos on different topics. And I hope my Patreons will enjoy it. Other than that, stay amazing, stay hydrated, and most of all, stay morbid. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye!